regions, sub-regions, and wards to elect capable ward candidates for the upcoming local government elections. We have submitted ward councillor candidates in all of the South Africa's 4,468 wards and will fight for victory in all of them. While we are of the strong conviction that the existing environment does not permit for free and fair elections due to restrictions of gatherings, we have nonetheless complied with the Independent Electoral Commission due date and time and submitted all candidates before 9 p.m. on Monday, the 23rd of August 2021. We are not sure whether all other political parties have complied with the due date, and we have since written to the IEC to demand a detailed technical report on the times each political party submitted candidates for local government elections. We did so because the rules and timetables for elections must be adhered to by all political parties. We call on the IEC to be honest because its independence and autonomy seems to be disappearing under the current leadership. We take this opportunity to congratulate EFF branch command teams, regional command teams, provincial command teams, and central command team members for the hard work and discipline demonstrated during the BGAs to elect councillor candidates. We particularly thank our members and ground forces who partook in the BGAs with maximum discipline and focus. The work of all members of the EFF in the past week is a clear illustration that we have a solid, dependable, and organic movement that is willing to fight for total victory in the local government elections. The EFF is currently at its strongest position and will give the most formidable fight in the local government elections. We call on all our branches to immediately continue with the hard work of campaigning for total victory in all the wards. BCTs of the EFF must in the immediate convene community meetings to introduce our ward councillor candidates and seek guidance from members of community on what are immediate issues that need the attention of the EFF and issues that must go into the manifesto. Branches of the EFF are instructed to immediately establish voting district election task forces, which will be the campaigning structures of the EFF in local government elections. All EFF branches in South Africa should have solid and dependable VD-based structures and programs to campaign for the victory of the EFF. The immediate program includes the public consultations and listening campaign where branches must listen to all members of their wards on what they want to see in the election manifesto for 2021 local government elections. Like all previous manifestos, our 2021 local government has an election manifesto which will be an organic outcome of deep community consultations. The official launch of the EFF local government election manifesto will happen on the 26th of September 2021 here in Johannesburg, and the launch will coincide with the official opening of the EFF headquarters. The launch of the manifesto will proceed even when elections are postponed to further date by the Constitutional Court processes. The manifesto launch will happen after massive public consultation that will happen at VD, branch, sub-regional, regional, provincial, and national level. After the launch of the election manifesto, we'll campaign for the total victory of the EFF and will not be restricted by any regulation which is aimed at suppressing our democratic right to campaign for the removal of the incumbents from political office. It will be tragic to retain the ruling party in office because everywhere the current ruling parties are governing, whether black or white, they always marginalize and undermine black people. The EFF is the only hope for our people, and our ground forces must courageously communicate this message to all voters. Over the next weekend, all regions of the EFF that have not yet convened the regional people's assemblies must do so, and we expect maximum discipline in all the remaining RPAs. Once elected, the regional command teams must hit the ground running and work with branches to establish VD, ETFs, and speak to our people. We call on government to open the country for free and fair elections. Free and fair elections are not determined by what happens on voting day. They are primarily defined by the democratic right to freely and fairly campaign before voting day. Disallowing political parties from campaigning undermines the freeness and the fairness of elections and will compromise South Africa's democratic projects. Political parties must be allowed to convene political gatherings and engage members of community on alternatives. The EFF is concerned by the growing militarization of South Africa and repeats that it is only an illegitimate government that rely on and depend on soldiers to protect them from the masses. A legitimate government must always be able to persuade its people and not always use the threat of force and worse from the military. The recent direction and pace of South Africa's Constitutional Court leaves a lot to be desired. The manner in which the Constitutional Court handled the cases involving former President Jacob Zuma and the IEC application to postpone elections can only be characterized as a gross incompetence. The Constitutional Court must understand what agency means and must always avoid playing into factional politics. As we said before, the current government is determined to mutilate and therefore incapacitate the state through privatization of critical and important state-owned assets and companies. We as the EFF are strongly opposed to the privatization of Eskom, Transnet, SAA, Mango, Dinel, and all the strategic assets. It is becoming apparent now that the current white capitalist control government will dispose all of its strategic assets for the benefits of white people. The capture of this administration is worse than what was said to be a capture of the previous administration. We want to reassure the people of South Africa that before the local government election, there will be a march in South Africa against the privatization of state assets. The people of South Africa are currently leaderless. And this is reflected by the rising levels of poverty, unemployment, and suffering. The levels of poverty and unemployment in South Africa are deepening and everything is getting worse. This anti-black government cannot guarantee access to basic services such as water and electricity. Municipalities are dysfunctional and majority defined by factional infightings. The extent and levels of unemployment in South Africa is at a crisis level. Despite rapid job losses caused by COVID regulation and failure to manage South Africa's democratic economy, the racist banks and financial institutions continue to repossess the houses, cars, and assets of people who have lost their jobs. Government has not done anything impactful to protect black-owned small and medium enterprises, particularly in the informal sector. The Department of Small Business and Trade and Industry are the most useless when it comes to protection of existing jobs. We want to caution the current government that the rising levels of unemployment will worsen crime levels and will lead to social instability and violent uprising that no army or police force can contain. There are more than 10 million people in South Africa who are capable of working, are looking for jobs, and cannot find jobs because there are no jobs in South Africa. Despite our protest action to the South African Health Product Regulator Authority to source vaccine from Russia and China, the South African government continues to solely import vaccine from the West because the current administration is controlled by the US-led global order. This government continues to frustrate efforts to source vaccines from Russia and China, despite their proven superior efficacy even against the Delta variant of COVID-19. It is evident now that the current administration is obsessed with transaction as opposed to saving lives and insulating our people from the coronavirus disease. We still demand that the South African government must source scientifically proven and tested vaccines from all parts of the world, not just from the West. We also wish to remind the people of the entire African continent that the West, with their history of colonialism and present neo-colonialism, have never been and will never be friends of black people all over the world. It is therefore foolish to rely on the West to save the lives of black people. It is only a dependable, strong and solid EFF that can stop South Africa's degeneration, joblessness and poverty. We call on all our ground forces to intensify the work of the organization and engage in disciplined work to speak to our people. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Commander-in-Chief. We will move swiftly to questions. Commissar now will read us the questions. Can we take the first one?
All right. Thank you very much. Sophie Mokoena from SABC News. Her first question is, what is your reaction to the recent developments in Afghanistan? And then the second question is the election of Zambia President Hakainde Hichilema. What's your reaction? And did you attend the inauguration? And the third question from Ms. Sophie is, how far are the discussions on the election of the President of Pan-African Parliament?
Thank you. Sure, President. One more, okay.
Okay, from Mutiba from the Insight Factor, he asks, what are your thoughts on the increased presence of the army around the country, especially taking into consideration how they've been deployed, yet the government couldn't give them food, hence they came asking for help from the leadership of the EFF. And then from Itumeleng from the Star newspaper, the Star did a story with the help of the EFF exposing a property company that was selling houses to the poor for 600 rand. The director of the company was telling the poor that the houses are being built by the Chinese government in efforts to help the poor. It is estimated that around 2,000 people were scammed. The Star has questioned ABSA, which was the bank used by the scammers. The question is, what is the CIC's position on the profitability of banks for the poor? And what is the EFF's position on the slow pace of housing in the country, as well as what is the EFF's response to the unemployment rate caused by the looting?
Thank you. I think the development in Afghanistan have exposed the weakness of the imperialism of the USA in trying to impose itself on other countries. And we are of a view that there is a need for a peaceful resolution as opposed to military intervention, which is not sustainable. And we are actually happy to see that the US is once more exposed that its intervention from time to time fail not only the people of USA, but the people of the countries they always tell us that they are going to install stability, human rights, and all manner of things. But whereas the reality is the opposite. We think that the problems confronting any other continent or country, solutions should be coming from those, not self-imposed big brother solutions to those particular countries. We call for calm, we call for a peaceful resolution and for the respect of rights in Afghanistan, especially rights of women and children. And we are calling upon Taliban to ensure that there is no blood on the floor, especially of innocent people, worse, women and children. There should be a democratization, respect of human rights, and there should be peace and stability that comes from internal engagements which will produce long-lasting solution in those particular countries. We congratulate the developments in Zambia, and we want to take this opportunity to really congratulate the new president, and we hope that it will not just be a new phase and things remain the same as they change. We are happy that the former president of Zambia quickly recovered from his a little bit of madness when he wanted to denounce the elections that were run under his own leadership. He became sober and normal after accepting that the results are what they are, and therefore there's no need for him to even create doubt on the credibility of elections that were approved by all observers. We think that this is a new journey for the people of Zambia, and if they lead by example, they will inspire a lot of confidence to the people of the region. Zambia has been a home of a lot of liberation movements during the dark days of our continent, and it has led from the front And we hope that they will continue to lead, especially with this type of development. We were invited to the inauguration of the new president, and unfortunately we could not attend due to the pressures that we had ourselves here at home to deal with the issues relating to local government elections. But we did communicate with the leadership of the ruling party and the president-elect then that we wish them well, and when time permit, we'll go and have
others want to get their stories across Africa to an international audience. We all aspire to be heard. Well, BBT24 is the voice you need. We offer advertisement services that brings your message to people's home.
Who doesn't watch TV? We all do, right? But everything that is shown to the public has to be memorable, and we are the correct people to contact. BBT24 will ensure that every project you bring catches people's attention, and that's the point.
We also specialize in news, politics, business ventures, and religion, and bring to you the stories of African leaders who have walked the talk.
To increase the number of viewers and market share, we believe in partnership and we believe in owning your space.
Get up, take charge, and lead your way. We are leading horse.
For more information, send us an email on info@bbt24.co.za.
It's not crimes against the state. It is political differences and discontent by the masses of our people on the ground who are desperately seeking the attention of their leadership and intervention, especially in poverty-stricken areas. And I think I'm of the view that the absence of leadership is the one that fuels this uncertainty that we wake up to all the time. Every morning, we are told that there will be a shutdown South Africa because there's no leadership that speaks directly to those issues. And worse, that we now spend resources on faceless people that we don't know. Someone just writes a poster and says there's going to be a shutdown tomorrow. And all manner of resources that we do not have get to be deployed to a faceless threat because the leadership does not have the mechanism to deal with this type of uncertainty that we are subjected to. We are not longer sure if we will wake up tomorrow, if there will still be malls or there will still be schools or anything of that sort, or they will be burned down. Because even with the deployment of soldiers, those soldiers are not enough to can cover the whole country at the same time. They were never designed for internal political differences and protest. I saw a nonsensical statement by South African National Defence Force that says there is a spreading of fake news about withdrawal of soldiers and about shortage of food. It's nonsensical in a sense that in the same statement, they admit that they've got problems. And the problems happened in KZN where the soldiers were sleeping in schools in the tents without water and without supply of food. And you cannot expect such soldiers to be effective, efficient, and continue to honor their deployment. Many of them reached out to the EFF and we made the necessary contact with authorities to make sure that proper things are done. They were not given even the daily allowance, including the danger allowance, but the same allowances were provided for the soldiers that are deployed in Gauteng. So we found that to be very unacceptable, and only when we exposed it did the South African National Defence Force start acting on those matters. But at the same time, they call them fake news. It's an absolute rubbish that this government think it can just intimidate people like that, including intimidating us. We'll never be intimidated by this nonsensical government of Cyril Ramaphosa, which says the truth is fake news. They are subjecting us to militarization. They are subjecting us to a police state where we cannot speak freely. A young man was arrested at a bus station here in Johannesburg for carrying Zuma's T-shirt. He stayed in jail from Friday and then he got released on Monday morning. What do you call that? Since when is it a crime to carry Zuma's T-shirt? You allow that nonsense. It's going to start with Zuma supporters. It will go to the EFF supporters. They will say, we found this person in EFF T-shirts with EFF, therefore he must be arrested. It's an absolute rubbish that must be stopped with immediate effect. It's going to start with Zuma. It's coming to all of us. We have nothing to do with Zuma. People who want to support Zuma, they must do it freely without any form of intimidation. They must do so within the confines of the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa. They've got a right to do so. Cyril has got no right to stop anyone from supporting anyone, including Zuma. So anyone, whether that is madness or not, people have got a right to be mad. No one can stop them from supporting anyone. So Zuma's supporters must be protected. You know, we're being hypnotized here about Zuma all the time. When there are serious issues of unemployment, you just see the headline, they must donate to Zuma. No, as a distraction, as a way of moving us from real issues, they just say, hey, will you donate to Zuma? How can you donate to Zuma? Hey, every time they want to move us from real issues, we're being told this and that about Zuma. Useless things that we have nothing to do with. So really, we are entering a dangerous zone. Zuma's T-shirts can never constitute crime. Support for Zuma cannot constitute crime as long as it is done within the confines of the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa. We must defend even the people who disagree with us. In this case, if we disagree with Zuma, we must defend those who defend Zuma, who support Zuma. It is their right to do so. So these soldiers are deployed to intimidate us, to make us not to express ourselves freely. How can you express yourself freely when there is a man here with a boots and a long rifle just moving around, not saying anything? That alone is enough to intimidate people. We are going into elections now with soldiers moving around the streets with guns. That alone is an intimidation. So we must, the sooner we remove the soldiers from the streets, the better. It has become costly, and this government doesn't even know how to sustain that. Well, I don't know the scandal you're talking about of people who are selling houses, DP, maybe you know, I don't know. I don't know, SG? It was never brought to our attention. Well, there will never be enough houses in South Africa for as long as people do not own the land. Even if you can have as much money to build people houses, as long as there is no land, you can't build people houses. There's an old woman I want us to build a house in Polokwane. She does not have a land. With a wheelchair and all of that, she doesn't have a land. So when you buy her a land and build a house, it becomes more expensive. The land itself is expensive. To build a disabled person a house becomes more expensive because we don't have a land. But when I went to bury Tsepotsula there in Lesotho, comrades, you will be shocked that there are no shacks there. There are no shacks. This thing of squatter camps, they are not there. Those people build their own houses. They have a land, they build their own houses. So the problem here is that you must first save money to buy the land, then save money to build a house. You'll be dead by then. That's why people end up staying in the shacks, because the saving money of the land should be the money we save to build ourselves houses. No, we save money to build the land, and then we must still save money to build houses, and then it takes forever. The unemployment in South Africa will continue to rise because our people do not own the strategic means of production, they do not own the land, and the little we own as the state, it is being outsourced. Can you imagine a person buying SAA, which has got 700 workers, and still maintain the 700 workers? It's not true, it's not possible. When they buy SAA, the first target is to retrench the workers. The first target is the workers. So the privatization of Denel, Eskom, Transnet, all of these strategic state institutions, the first victims are going to be workers. So these high levels of unemployment are not going to stop anytime soon if Pravin Gordhan is not stopped from his shenanigans. That's why we need a mother of all protest against privatization. Because they are going to privatize electricity. We cannot afford electricity as we speak now. Imagine if this electricity is in the private hands. We cannot afford to fly to Eastern Cape to go and bury our loved ones even during funerals. Imagine if Mango and SAA are to be privatized. It means that it is now going to take a month or so to bury our loved ones, because we'll have to keep them in a mortuary until those who have gone out of Eastern Cape to go and work have saved enough to come and bury their loved ones. So we have a big problem here, which will lead to social instability. And when there is a social instability, there's no army or police who can stop it. No one can stop them. No one can stop the hungry masses. The most dangerous crimes today are committed by the so-called foreigners, because those people are dead already. I mean, you cross a river with crocodiles, and then you come to another country, you are still alive. That's a bonus. It's equal as being dead. There's nothing more to fear. If you look at that attitude, you're like, but this attitude is inspired by the fact that this person died long before, when he decided to get into a river with crocodiles to cross to the other side. You can't tell them anything. So that's what hungry, empty stomach breed. Cyril thinks the soldiers are going to stop this thing. If these people who are running these threats run these threats for a year, there will not be budget for those soldiers. Those soldiers too will be hungry. And as people loot, they will join them in the looting, because they are hungry. There's nothing they can do. But what is even more dangerous for Cyril is that if they do not loot, they will turn their guns on Cyril and demand that this government must step down. It's very dangerous to take the soldiers from the barracks, because it might not be easy to tell them to go back to the barracks after they tested a nice life outside the barracks. So what they are doing is actually a danger on its own. The banks have always colluded with scammers. The banks have always worked with scammers. The only people banks hate is politicians, and politicians who are opposed to anyone who the banks have installed in the leadership of South Africa. If you hate Trevor Manuel, if you hate Pravin Gordhan, if you hate Cyril Ramaphosa, if you hate Ino Godongwan, you are very lucky to have a bank account in South Africa. By just hating those people, you are the enemy of the banks in South Africa. And the banks that are conniving with criminals to steal from our people. Their Transnet is collapsing. That former CEO of Transnet, Gama, was running a solid machine there. Now we hear that actually Brian Molefe was recommended by Cyril Ramaphosa. There's no noise. It's Ramaphosa who recommended Brian Molefe. There's no noise. But if it was confirmed that Brian Molefe was recommended by Zuma, it was going to be a huge problem. Another politician recommended Brian Molefe, who we all concluded is corrupt. Now that he was recommended by the favorite, the noise is not coming that much. So we exist in an era and time of hypocrisy. Let those who say we are lying tell us of a single achievement Ramaphosa has made, or Pravin Gordhan. They thought they were going to lead this country for the next 10 years, and the only thing they are going to tell us is that it is Zuma who messed up the country. Yes, we agree with you. Zuma messed up the country. What have you done to fix it? The term is coming to an end now. Cyril found the ANC here. The ANC is at its lowest from where he found it. Yeah? When he took the ANC at 63, he has now put it at 57%. Organizationally, internally, the ANC is at its weakest state. But defenders of Cyril and the media will make you think that Cyril has put the ANC from 57 to 65. What is this, 2/3? No. Yeah, it's like Cyril has put the ANC at 66. If you listen without knowing the fact, you'll think that Cyril has improved the ANC's performance in elections and has built a strong ANC internally. Nothing. What has he done? He has purged all his opponents. DP? He can't pay salaries. Something we've never heard of in the era of those who came before him. Actually, when we were in the ANC, our salaries were increased by Matthew Posa under Zuma. We were earning, as the president of the Youth League, I was earning 20,000. We were given 49,000. Increased from 20 to 49 by Matthew Posa and Zuma's leadership. There's never been a point where we never got salaries. Under Ramaphosa, the so-called imaginary president, the ANC is not paying salaries. Worse, is even chowing the pension money of workers. How brutal can you be? To lie to workers that you are paying their pension funds when you are eating them. Medical aids are not being paid. But that is Ramaphosa, we are told, is the most performing good president. That is ANC internal matters, they will fix it. Let's go to the state. He has not improved anything. Not a single institution has improved under Ramaphosa. Look at what they've done with the state security. Move state security straight to his office. And then it reports to him. There is a large fund in that thing. It's 50 billion. 50 billion slash fund. Not even Auditor General can put her hand properly on it. That money, you don't get to account for it properly. He needs that money for the next conference of the ANC because there will not be another CR17 money. He needs that slash fund. So the only way to access that slash fund is to take SSA straight into his office so that they can use that money to manipulate the outcome of their conference. Remember, that money was used by Zuma's faction in Nazareth. He wants to do the same because no white capital will now give him money with this pending case of the CR17 documents being released to the public. They don't want to be known that they've given him money. They regret that. They will not repeat it. And he knows he's not going to get any money from anywhere. The only money he can use is a slush fund. Hence the taking of state security agency directly into the president without a minister and put Zizi God on there. But lots of Zizi. Yes, sis.
Thank you, President. Can we have more questions, Commissar?
Natasha Piri from SABC News. The first out of 3 questions is, Mr. Malema, you seem to have cast credibility doubts on the IEC candidate nomination process, which was extended beyond the 9 p.m. You recently tweeted that the commission was manipulating the system and that the ANC was running the system. Number 2, Mr. Malema, I know you can't preempt the outcomes of the Concord ruling on the IEC seeking a relief that elections be postponed. But what outcomes are you expecting, seeing that your party is opposed to the elections being held in October? And number 3, if the IEC fails in its Concord bid, will you observe the lockdown regulations? The court heard from your legal representatives that if the Apex Court will not grant the relief sought by the Commission, then the Concord must make an order asking the President and the NCC to amend and promulgate lockdown restrictions to allow for political activity. More questions?
You know, we went, the SG finished the registration of our candidates a few minutes before 9 o'clock. And then by 9 o'clock, we asked him to go and check if the system is closed. When he checked, the system was still running. And it was even saying 40 minutes to go. After 9, we called the CEO of the IEC who said, no, I checked, they said the system is closed. I said, I sent him a video where the system was still running and open. What is casting doubt about that? It's a fact. The system was not closed at 9 o'clock. And the only part which had internal problems of registration was the ANC. But leave the system closing at 9 o'clock. The IEC says to us, we are postponing the closing time from 5 o'clock to 9 o'clock because of the queries that came from different political parties. They don't give us the names of those political parties. How do you call that a transparency? They postponed the time because the ANC could not miss the deadline of 5 o'clock. In the IEC, we all asked for IEC to postpone elections. They told us all manner of things. It's not easy to postpone anything there. But they just came and postponed 5 o'clock, and there's several political parties. What type of a name of a political party is that one? There's no party in South Africa called several political parties. The IEC should have been transparent from the beginning and said the following parties have requested that we postpone the time from 5 to 9 o'clock. And we have adhered to that. So that those political parties can respond for themselves and say, don't include me. Ungamfaki wena IEC kule crisis yenu. We're not part of that. So now, we are going to be included there as EFF. EFF asked for a postponement of time. We never asked for the postponement of time. When you go to the ANC, the ANC says, no, we are ready. There's no political party that ever said we are not ready. We were told by the IEC that political parties have asked for postponement. Till to date, the IEC has not revealed the list of which political parties were not ready at 5 o'clock. It means the IEC is in cahoots with these incompetent political parties and is prepared to accommodate and even protect their identity, these incompetent political parties, which could not meet the 5 o'clock. So we're saying to the IEC, be transparent. Don't talk to us in folk tongues, several political parties. What is that? Tell us who asked for postponement from 5 o'clock to 9 o'clock. Tell us why was the system not closed by 9 o'clock. And we want a list of all political parties and what time did they register their last candidate. They must tell us that. It's very simple. That thing is electronic. You generate that information and you publish it. If you are an honest, independent electoral commission. We have always, DP, opposed machinist chairpersonship of that institution. And now Praveen's friend is also a member of that commission, Judge Pillay, who declared in the JSC that she's the best friend of Praveen Gordhan, a politician. Mashinini had a nice, close relationship with Jacob Zuma. These things are run by politicians and ANC-aligned politicians. So you want us to say, no, they're independent. Such commissioners, no, we can't allow that. Everything the IEC does, we must check it twice. Even when we go to elections now, the IEC cannot be trusted. It has got commissioners with questionable characters. So we cannot allow that to happen. These people have been stealing elections from us for a very long time, especially here in Gauteng. And that nonsense must come to an end. We are not going to be the most reasonable people this time around. It's not going to happen. We are not going to reason with anyone, soldiers or no soldiers. We are not going to reason with this nonsense of ANC. You know, ANC lost elections in 2019. Paul Mashatile came to us to start the negotiations of coalition. When we're in the negotiations of coalition, he got a call. And then he came back and said, no, they're saying we're fine. But their own results came in and they'd already accepted defeat. Someone somewhere went to manipulate system. They pulled Mashatile out of the meeting. Mashatile started saying to us, no, we're fine, we'll not need anything. The ANC and Gauteng, they won at 50.1. Pure manipulation. We have been reasonable people when people have been stealing elections from us. It's not going to happen again this time around. It's not going to happen again this time around with this incompetent IEC that is in cahoots with the ruling party to steal elections from opposition parties. Comrades, there is something wrong with the Constitutional Court. And when we say that, some fools are going to say we are attacking the judiciary. We are not. There's a gross incompetence at the highest level of the judiciary, starting with the incompetent acting Chief Justice, Zondo. Zondo has put us in this mess. Why did Zondo take Zuma to Constitutional Court? Why didn't he take him to Magistrate Court or High Court? Okay, why did he have to go to court in any way? Because that is a commission. If Zuma doesn't want to appear and there are allegations against Zuma, leave him and then rule against him. Take the vision that you have and say, I accept this vision. It's true Zuma did the following things. Because I gave him chance to come and clarify this matter, he refused. You proceed and rule against that person. No, he doesn't. What does he do? He goes and wants to demonstrate that he's got more masculine power than Zuma, the masculinity. Bankrishetana Makwafa at the expense of South Africa. Zondo. Zondo does not qualify to be our Chief Justice. He's the most incompetent person who has plugged this country into a crisis. He single-handedly did that. He knew the implications of what he was doing. Now he goes to the Constitutional Court on agent basis. The Constitutional Court gives him agency and takes 4 months. 4 months to make a ruling on agency. And then they still say in their judgment, proudly so, agency is granted. Agency granted after 4 months. When we grew up as laymen, we were taught that agency in court means life and death. It means this matter is so urgent, we can even wake up a judge to adjudicate this matter in his dining room at home. Today, agency takes 4 months, and no one wants to say anything because we are scared that one day when we are in court, these judges might have an attitude against us and send us to jail even when we are not wrong. Let them do it. Let them do it. Let them send us to jail. Our conscience will be clear that they're sending us to jail not because we are wrong, but because they've got a political score to settle. We are not going to be scared to talk about incompetent judges of the Constitutional Court who take 4 months to resolve an urgent matter. There are rules in court, of the rules of the High Court, which say no matter a normal matter on the roll, once heard, it must not take more than 3 months to be adjudicated. Not more than 3 months. They tell this to High Court. I'm a member of the JSC. Every time a judge appears before the JSC, we ask them, how many matters did they go beyond 3 months? Once he says 3, 4 matters went beyond 3 months, we go, oh, no. You are not the type of a judge we want. But we have the Constitutional Court judges taking 4 months to decide an urgent matter. And we are told we must keep quiet because judges are bigger than the Constitution. Judges are human beings. If they're incompetent, they're incompetent. When we are incompetent, judges tell us we're incompetent. Why can't we tell them they're incompetent? Who are they? Are they bigger than God? We cannot give judges a status bigger than God's status. It must come to an end. That's why they behave in a manner they are doing, because they know no one will criticize them. They are scared. Everybody's scared of them. No. 4 months. Then Dali makes a rescinding application. He submits that, Floyd, on Friday. They respond on Saturday. That's how an efficient court must operate. They respond on Saturday and say, we want you to file everything by Monday. The lawyers do all manner of things. By Monday, Tuesday, they are done submitting everything. The matter is heard. It's now more than a month. More than a month after they asked lawyers to do everything within weekend. They have a right to tell lawyers to do everything within 1 weekend. But no one has got a right to tell them what to do. A month on a matter that they've given us an impression, all of us South Africa, that no, this one is not even agent. It's something else. It's tsunami. Saturday, Monday, this must come in, this must be heard, all of that. Within less than a week, everything is done. They must go. After making everybody run around, they must go and take more than a month. And when they do that, they keep Zuma in jail. They don't say, since we have granted this rescinding application, let the men go home until we have made a determination. What's going to happen when they come back and say, we were wrong to say Zuma must go to jail without trial? What's going to happen? Because the man is already in jail. What's going to happen? Because in the issuing of the directives of that rescinding application, one of the directives should have been release the man until we have made up our mind. That is Zuma. I'm saying these fools are going to say we support Zuma. I'm speaking on a matter of principle here. The IEC says there is this matter is very urgent. We join the court and say the matter is urgent, therefore the Monday registration of candidates must be postponed. That Monday is passed. What is that judgment for? Why can't Zondo take that judgment and go and give it to his grandchildren to play with it? It's no longer relevant. We paid a lot of money to get an advocate to go and argue before a court for the Monday to be postponed. That Monday is passed. without a judgment. Without a judgment. We have registered candidates who have had to work abnormal hours, thanks to committed ground forces of the EFF and the leadership of the EFF, who sacrificed everything within a week to get all candidates. It might not be a perfect outcome, but it was done. Zondo must give, and that constitutional court, they must take that judgment of registration of candidates to be postponed and give it to their grandchildren to play with it. What are you going to do with it? They should have told us there and there. Imagine DP if we trusted this constitutional court like we ordinarily should be trusting them. Imagine we said, all right, guys, let's wait until the constitutional
court affected by the current lockdown regulations on church gatherings. Then BBT 24 offers you a great opportunity to reach out to your congregants. As we celebrate our 1st year anniversary, we've got special rates tailor-made just for you. Then why don't you take advantage of our evening prime time slots at a discounted rate for a limited time, of course. I trust and I pray that your association with BBT 24 will be of great pleasure as we continue to preach the true gospel of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ in these last days. I am looking forward to hearing from you soon. Please contact us on the details below. Shalom.